completed this one. Okay. So now, what legislation has been presented to raise the minimum wage? And we looked at a little bit of this before, okay? So we talked about the Higher Wages for American Workers Act, and which is the one that would raise it to $10, that is supported by Republicans. And we talked about the Raise the Wage Act of 2021. That was introduced by mainly Democrats, and that would raise it to $15 by 2025. Okay, so let's look at the. You what? There's a lot here. So essentially, so for the first, hold on, I'm trying to see what I had written here. There it is. All right. So a really good way to look at bills, and I'm looking at this one that says govtrack.us, the first one that says /Congress/bills. Okay. This is a really good way to see, and I think you've used this before. Maybe not the specific one. We'll just make sure this is updated. So this is a good way to look to see what bills here. Okay. What bills, like what their status is in Congress. So in this one, it says the sponsor is Bernie Sanders, but I'm almost wondering if it's because the other representative who originally presented it, Representative Scott, is no longer in, oh wait, I did not spell Virginia correctly. Representative Bobby Scott. Oh, he would have introduced to the House, but we're looking at who's the Senate. Gotcha, okay, this makes sense now. Ignore me, ignore my rambling. All right, so we see that the Raise the Wage Act of 2021, if we wanted a summary, but we already know about this one, that's trying to raise the minimum wage to 15 by 2025. We can see our main sponsor in Congress. We can see that the bill was introduced. And it says this bill is in the first stage of the legislative process. It was introduced into Congress on January 26, 2021. It will typically be considered by a committee next before it's possibly sent on to the House or the Senate as a whole. Now, we know that over a year has passed since then, so it doesn't look like it is going anywhere. You ever listen to Schoolhouse Rock? Yeah. Okay, you know the I'm Just a Bill song? Yeah. And I'm sitting in committee. It's sitting in committee. That's what it's doing. So it didn't even make it to the House.
That was the best song that came out of learning anything in school.
I would argue that there are better Schoolhouse Rock songs.
Out of the ones that we've been shown.
This is fair.
To like teach us something.
Schoolhouse Rock is a winner. I'm glad I'm going to be posting this video. But I'm Just a Bill is helpful because it helps you kind of understand, like it's sitting in committee and then it might end up in the House, and I don't know. It's helpful with the legislative process, which can be very confusing.
So this act is mostly supported by Democrats?
Yes. Okay. Almost, I would say probably wholeheartedly. Yep. 37 Democrats, right? Out of the 37 co-sponsors. All of them are Democrats. Okay. And we can see with a really good little visual here. It's just been introduced. Has not moved. Okay. Yeah. So it's been maybe referred to a committee, but it is just sitting. It's not going anywhere. Okay. So for the Raise the Wage Act, we know that it was introduced in January 24th of 2021, and it needs to be looked at by a committee before going to the House or the Senate. So it needs to be considered in committee. But if you look at any kind of legislation that is purely one party at this point, it's fully supported by Democrats. There are no Republicans that support it. I'm just going to write that here. So that means it's very unlikely to make it through the legislative process. Okay, so you got the Higher Wages for American Workers bill as well.
Yeah.
So that Higher Wages for American Workers Act is that one that says that it's going to be raised, or wants to raise it to
$10.
$10. Yep. So who do we know mainly supports this one? Republicans. Look, we got Tom Cotton.
They
Okay.
said that they agree with the raise of it, but they don't want it as high as.
Yeah, so it's not a black and white issue, right? We're seeing that they say, yeah, no, it needs to be raised, but we don't think it needs to be raised to 15. Okay, so I'm just going to add here mostly supported by, or only supported by Republicans. And again, when you see something that is completely partisan, only supported by Democrats or only supported by Republicans, it's unlikely to pass in this situation because of the divide that we have in the House and the Senate. There's not one party that overwhelmingly has a majority that can pass a lot of these. Okay. So then we need to cite this.
So the first one.
So
15 was the Democrats. So.
right.
It's the one with Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, Bernie Sanders is the main sponsor now in with the Raise the Wage Act to raise it to 15. And I think Tom Cotton is the main sponsor for the Higher Wages for American Workers
So
Act.
we need to add a citation or do we?
Yeah. Nope, so we're going to add a citation, but this is, so I put the citation in here already. It gets a little bit tricky. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over and we're going to add both of these first. So go to the link for the Raise the Wage Act. So the govtrack.us one for the Raise the Wage Act. And we're going to scroll down to this yellow box at the bottom, and it says how to cite this information, because it has trouble with this website on MyBib. So I believe, what are we using? We're using MLA. So this is our MLA citation. So I'm going to copy this. This little, see what I'm doing here, right here?
Yeah.
So I'm copying that. I'm bringing it over to MyBib. Now what you have to do is you have to press Add Citation, and then press this button down here that says Enter Manually. Oh, online. Press that. It's this one. There we go. So under More, sorry, it's Right Pace Citation. I was like, I know it's a manual entry.
So we're going to put it there?
Right there.
That's it.
I press Save. Okay. And what's tricky now is that we're going to have to have our own in-text citation. So this is the in-text citation that I suggest you use. Okay? Right here. GovTrack, comma, Raise the Wage Act of 2021, parentheses, So
do I push edit?
Nope, so just go over to your paper.
Alright.
Yeah, and we're just gonna, that's why I put it up here, we're just gonna put this citation in the text.
So we're taking it, right?
Yep, that GovTrack, this one first, is for the Raise the Wage Act. So you should put next to that information, that GovTrack, comma, Raise the Wage Act.
I think I did it.
Okay? So we're going to do the same thing for the Higher Wages for American Workers Act. So we're going over to the GovTrack page for it, scrolling down, this yellow box, and we see that citation. I'm copying it.
So where do we find it?
So go to the GovTrack website for Higher Wages for American Workers Act, so it should be the last link in that box. Scroll down to the yellow.
And then we're gonna copy that again.
Copy that again. It's a different one. What's cool about this website too is you could also, like, if you were really interested in a bill, you could sign up for like alerts about it if it moves. But okay, then you're gonna press Add Citation, More, Right Paste Citation. Go ahead and put that in there. Yes, and then we're going to go over to your paper, go to where you have the information about the Higher Wages for American Workers Act, and this citation down here. Okay. All right, so now that we're done with this section, you're on to your claims. Okay, so you're going to defend your thesis, whatever side you picked. And I kind of introduced some little information here. So you would do something like the minimum wage should or shouldn't be raised. Should be raised because, and then you pick your first claim. Then you just move on to your argument. Explain why that claim makes sense. Okay? And again, I really like using Britannica Procon. I like the sources that they provide on there. But you are 100% welcome to find sources on your own that can help you kind of figure out if they're going to be reliable.
So I should find stories to support my claim.
Yeah, Britannica Procon does have sources on there as well, and I will, this is more of a one-on-one, we'll bounce around and do that sort of thing. But, you might, I sometimes come up with things where I'm like, okay, well, I want to know more information about that. So I might have to Google it and then figure out if that's a reliable source, and that's just kind of an exercise in that. Okay? Alrighty.